great. I really enjoy every time I come back to the Flanders House here in Paris. I think it's exactly the combination of what we are trying to do actually with the summit.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm really looking forward to the third edition, which for the first time is going outside of Belgium in Utrecht this year. We wanted to do that from day one. We wanted to start to travel with the conference because we really want to turn this into a pan-European conference. Already last year, we had 96 companies that pitched from 17 countries. But now that we can start to do it in other countries, that idea of a pan-European conference will even be more important. And I'm glad to say we are in the last stages of pre-selecting the first companies. And we will already, by the middle of July, we'll already have 60 companies selected from 10 different countries already at this point in time. So we're well on our way to reach the same again.
Well, look, it's really great because I know from the beginning you had this idea, with the team, with Medvia at the time and BioVia, really of bringing people together. So it's not a BioVia meeting, it's really bringing people together. And this idea of going to Utrecht, I think it's really great because people know it's for them. It's really traveling with them, and that's how it's going to really become European. So this is really exciting, and we see the number of companies actually that keeps increasing, as well as the diversity. So it's really maybe walking the talk of what we had discussed at the beginning.
Absolutely, and also on the investor side, I'm very happy to see we will have, for the first time, investors from Spain that will be present, from Portugal, from Italy. So also there we are geographically starting to expand and bring a number of pan-European investors from there together as well. And I think in this context, Laurent, I wanted to explore, because you're an investor yourself, what has changed in the last 5-6 months. I mean, we see all the things happening at this point in time on a geopolitical level. Europe that starts to say we need to take care of ourselves a bit more. Is that a challenge, or is that an opportunity for us as Europeans in this whole context, and specifically also in the context of health tech company development and health tech investment?
Look, I've seen clearly that the bar for startups has risen in terms of expectation from investors, including myself vis-a-vis them. Maybe 3-4 years ago, you had a great idea, you wanted to start. People knew, wow, the direction is great, and maybe the path was a little bit easier. I think now the companies really need to get not just a vision, a team, the right tech and problem to solve. They really need to be more advanced, have a clear idea of what the go-to-market path will be. How are they going to get funded? How are they going to sell? Of course, if you are starting, you have not done it yet. And if you have scaled up, you have started to do that. But you need a much clearer path there. I think the second one is the investors are really looking for founders who have feet on the ground. It's great to think about going to the moon and the vision and so on, but at some point, how are you going to make sure that you survive, that you make the first sale, and that maybe you start with small steps, but you are very pragmatic, and maybe you start with small scale before you go to the full vision.
Yeah, I hear what you say, but of course, during the HealthTech Investor Summit, we have pre-seed companies, we have startup companies, we have scale-up companies. So we have the whole range of maturity of companies. And do we have a little bit of a challenge there to make sure that we can address the needs and the questions of each of those different companies, and how can we do that better even than we do that today?
Yeah, look, that's why I was saying, depending on your stage, on the 2 points I was mentioning, you have started to do it, or you have a clear path to do it. I remember maybe a year or 2 years ago, you had a lot of startups had a lot of emphasis on the vision, maybe on the technology, maybe on the team, and this element of go-to-market, element of selling, and maybe the element of maybe more reasonable steps were less the focus. Now it's a lot more that. If you are a seed or a pre-seed even company, Yes, you have to think about your tech, the problem to solve, the team, but you have to think about,
What's my
obviously,
product?
when you raise the first time the money and you're going to say where are you going to use the money, you have to think about how you're going to also survive and help the company make it to the next stage. When you are a startup or you get to seed stage, I mean, you have started to get pilot or proof of concept, and that's where you find your customer, you
Yeah.
know. And I have talked to some founders, including some with you, and they are always very impressive on the tech, and sometimes they have too much anger on this is my tech, this is what it needs to do, and so on. The ones who are very pragmatic and accept maybe to degrade it a little bit, but to sell, maybe are gonna succeed. So I think the different chapters are not different.
Yeah.
We respect the fact that, of course, if you're not at the same level, it's okay. But I think it's important that even very early on, the entrepreneurs think about these core questions, because otherwise, when they will need the money, it's going to be a bit too late, actually.
Yeah. And this is why I'm still extremely happy that we also do involve very early stage companies in the conference and startups in the conference, because they are not only there to pitch in front of investors maybe for the first time, but I think they are primarily there to learn from the others and to learn from exactly what you're saying. Yeah? What is it that will make them successful? It's moving from thinking like this to thinking like that.
Yeah.
What's my product, and how am I going to bring my product to the right customer? Yeah? And if we can make sure that all the companies that are there not only to talk to investors but also to learn from each other, I think we're making big steps forwards on a pan-European level to start to improve the overall quality of these
Yeah.
companies. Yeah?
And actually, what you say is pretty well in sync with the other aspect of what has changed in Europe. Is I think Europe now is ready for scaling. You know, it's ready for solutions across Europe, and that's why it's great to bring investors from across Europe, startup from across Europe, which is not just helping startup to find investor from somewhere else, but is the idea of how do you get beyond your own country. You know,
How do we build successful European companies?
Exactly, and look, there is a it's the right moment because the needs are in Europe, and we know in health tech. I mean, it's not just all about going to US, which all of them will need to do,
Yep.
but it's also about how you then use your home base to actually gain scale, gain learning, which actually gain strength, which will make you better equipped when you need to go to US, and some of them when they need to go to Middle East and maybe to Asia.
Yeah, it's very interesting you bring this up. I had a discussion actually over the last 2 days in Paris here, yesterday with Flanders Investment and Trade, and today with one or two partners from France here. And one of the ideas that we started to play with is to say, would it not be a great idea to organize 3 educational sessions with the general theme, how can we make Europe great again? From Holland, from Belgium, from France, and have a few examples and really start to see, can we identify what are the things that you need to do if you want to tackle the French market to be successful as another European company, if you want to tackle the Belgian market from another country, if you want to tackle the Dutch market from another country, what are the things that you need to do to be successful? And I think that will also help to catalyze this whole process of building homegrown companies into pan-European successful companies.
Yeah.
And then at what point in time they will also start to tackle the US or Asia is part of the strategy and as part of the growth strategy, of course. But I think that
you know, I like what you say, and actually, I think where I have to thank BioVia for what you do is actually we are starting to create this ecosystem group of people to work together to make it happen, because it's all about obviously people helping on the investor side with you, helping companies. I think we see with the founders of these meetings, and we see with people who are then coming regularly now, 3 editions. I can probably have a team already of like 10, 15 people who are definitely committed to create these European scaled up companies, you know. And I think that's by doing that together, in a way we're not competitors, even between investors, that I think we'll manage to maybe pick a few cases, maybe where we invest together and make this company be successful actually across Europe with the right capabilities around, like IP law, like
Sure.
yourself also connecting with whoever is missing. So this thing, I don't know if it's a coalition or it's an ecosystem or it's a very committed group of people, which I think start to emerge after 3 years, and I really look forward to the next edition. I take the opportunity of our talk here actually to maybe I also have a request for the authorities across Europe. For me, there are really two elements. One is I respect regulations, and of course, it's the job of regulators to make sure there are the right boundaries. But we should really make sure that we don't create a millefeuille, as we say in French. Why? Because you have the AI Act, you have the Data Act, you have all this regulation at European level, and then every country who tries to implement it keep adding something, and they keep adding something that is different in Germany, different in France, different in Belgium, different elsewhere. And look, when you're a giant company, you're going to have a team just taking care of it. When you're an investor or a startup and you have 10, 20, 30 people, it becomes a nightmare. So first, regulation, yes. Millefeuille, no. So keep it harmonized. If you could have really one set of regulation across Europe, it would be perfect. I think the second thing that would be really great is we talk about Europe as one single market, which is probably true for us traveling. But if you take the capital market, it's still very national. So if they could work on maybe taking down a little bit of the barriers, making sure also that regulations are strong, whatever they need to be, but maybe create a single market there. I think it would help a lot of investors and the companies to really do something that is scaled across Europe.
Okay. Well, I want to pick on a few points there. First, your first point on starting to create European syndicates. Do you already start to see that happen also in health tech? Because, of course, in biotech, this has been happening for 15, 20 years now. But the biotech sector is a lot more mature in terms of financing and so on. I do hear in the grapevine that there is more and more contacts between investors from France, from Belgium, from the Netherlands, and I'm hoping that in a very humble way with the HealthTech Investor Summit, we're also contributing to that. I was on a little get-together yesterday organized in Paris here, and there was quite a number of Belgium and Dutch-based investors that were there, and this was all around HealthTech. So we're starting, do you start to see that happening also already? Do you start to have the first, I mean, you've invested in a few Belgian companies. Do you start to see that happening already?
In fact, I see it happening quite a lot at the, let's say, early stage, because, companies and push in every country has been starting maybe 10 years ago. I see the intention, but not yet happening at growth stage. That's also why actually we created KLS, with my partner based in London. By the way, when I talk about Europe, I include UK in it, because that's very important, and I include Switzerland, obviously, and I know we do too.
Absolutely.
This I would say this is only starting. It's a bit of an empty spot with the growth stage. If you take investors like KLS across Europe, probably have a handful that are really focused and specialized in digital health or health tech, if you use the two words. It's very interesting. You start having syndicate discussions with early stage investors, because of course, when you take great targets, when you get to the next round, the investors who were there before and see that it's a great target, they tend to put a small ticket because they are more like early stage investors, but they want to stay. So you kind of get along with them. Of course, you become lead as you put the big ticket, and they just continue. So that's a first type of syndicate you see. And in every target that we are looking at for KLS, we are actually obviously talking to investors who are there already from the beginning. And then if you think about the ones investing together, then at growth stage and entering together, as I said, you probably have a handful, a few more in UK than maybe the rest of Europe. But it's definitely, I would say, only starting.
Yeah. On the regulatory side, I mean, what you say is absolutely correct. We don't want to go to a millefeuille. And and this is always a little bit frustrating. You get the Draghi report, who was really calling for a simplification. But then, do we miss the sense of urgency then to actually implement that and to make sure that that happens, and that the simplification in the regulatory part is happening? And again, what can we do also at a HealthTech Investor Summit to start to put some pressure on that?
Look, I would say we all have discussion with politicians and the Commission, the EU commissions or government, national government. I think among us in this discussion, we need to be focused on what we are asking. You know, because of course they have so many problems to address. We need to be focused on the 1, 2, 3 key actions that could really help us. If we come with too many, and I'm sure we will have a lot of great ideas, they will not be able to resolve it. If we come with 1 or 2 or 3 and we stick to that for 2-3 years, I think this could really help. And I think that's maybe a discussion we could have in the next meeting in Utrecht. Just together saying, look, for the next 3 years, what are the 2-3 we want to pick that could really make a difference? You know, and I think this one probably can help. I have another element that I think can probably help them is, and I see that in many discussions. Look, AI in healthcare, digital tools in healthcare, use of patient data. Everybody sees and understands the negative impact of the bad use that could be made of it. And that's why you have a whole topic on ethical use of AI or unethical use of AI, and how do you put the right barriers or protection. You know, I think the understanding among the people, the patients, the families, and the politicians on the positive aspect of AI is not necessarily totally understood. I see a lot of people that think that AI is still in a lab or still in Silicon Valley or still only for a few high-tech engineers. Not so many people actually know that it's already there and opening a lot of possibilities for healthcare of people. You know, AI imaging for the lung, for the mammography, for whatever diagnostics, deep tech with exoskeleton that people can use, patient care at the hospital, chronic care management of disease, digitized clinical trial management, and accelerating discovery of new drug. And I think if people would realize more how much the acceleration could benefit and how much we have an opportunity to scale across Europe, they would also understand the benefit to accelerate. They went very fast creating the limitation, probably vis-a-vis the big tech in the US. I think they should go as fast creating the levers to accelerate. And I think we have a role to play to actually maybe be better, showing that these innovations are already in your house or in your hospital.
Yeah, but I think you touch on a very important point there, and we've discussed about this before, Laurent. One of the things that we definitely want to do as a lead up to the HealthTech Investor Summit and at the HealthTech Investor Summit is also come with a number of success stories, and also do some popularizing little video interviews with these success stories, exactly explaining to the broader public. And it can be in the beginning, maybe the broader business public, explaining what has already been done and what has already been achieved, and beautiful examples of things that are happening. As a result of the last HealthTech Investor Summit, there's at least already 6 or 7 closings that were done of companies that are taking the next steps. We should put those companies in the picture. We can take a few of success stories of companies that are already in that growth stage and bring them also in front of a camera and explain to the big public what is happening. I think that can be an important one.
I like this. I really like this idea. And look, we have spoken about these before, but I mean, there are 2 elements. I mean, people would see that coming to the meeting, you would see from one year to the other, and probably we will see over the different editions also then companies rising. In a way, in the previous edition, what was really great is to see Onward Medical, which we had not seen in the previous session, but I had seen 1 year before in Vivatech. And it's very interesting to see. In Vivatech, it was more like, wow, the tech is there, this is what it could do. And then when we saw them in Bruges, you would see obviously a patient who actually really benefited from it. not being able to move anything, and then being in a wheelchair, which means half of the mobility had been recuperated. It's amazing technology, and really the testimony of the patient was probably justifying all the investment that people were doing. It's a Swiss company, so obviously touching our question, saying how do you spread this across Europe? And I think these examples could really be extremely impactful.
As a last question, I want to go back to Europe. I mean, I just told you we have just signed, or we are about to sign, a strategic relationship with EIC Accelerator. And I had a very interesting conversation with one of the key people there 2 days ago, where she said, we start to be a lot more critical when we are supporting companies, and we're starting to ask a lot more questions. Because they put their money and they want to make sure that that money is also deployed and successfully deployed. Mm-hmm. They could be a very, very strong ally within the European Commission and within the European Institute to help to accelerate and do this acceleration move that you talked about earlier. So that is probably also one party that we need to include into that dialogue. How can we together, the EIC Accelerator benefiting companies, the EIC fund benefiting companies, and the investors together with the companies, how can we together develop a message of success and a path of success towards European companies? And that's probably one thing that we need to try and do indeed. We should try to organize a meeting, even if it's on the side in Utrecht, to focus on.
I definitely take note of this, because they're going to be part of it now that they put quite a lot of money actually in different winners, and they will want to create their own success stories too. And I'm sure they'll make mistakes, but they're going to be like us, making mistakes, picking winners, and then being able to say, look, this is how it works, and what needs to be done. Maybe I have a question for you also, Henk. It has been now 3 editions. It's the third one here. And obviously, Utrecht, you talk in between. It's not just about the edition. It's obviously the whole dynamic in the middle. What is going to be new in this next edition? And maybe 2, if you had something to say to participants, investors, or companies, how can they prepare better to make the most of it?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. First of all, what is going to be new is the geographic spread of companies that is going to be present is going to be much more even across Europe. In the first edition, we had 50% Belgian companies. It was the first time, and it was in Belgium. Mm-hmm. This year, we will probably have 10% Belgian companies, 15% Dutch companies, 10% French companies. We have 10 companies from Italy, 6 companies. We have 8 companies from Bulgaria. So we're going to have a much more even spread. In combination with that, I already told you, we're also expanding the investor base from a geographical basis as well. We will have pan-European investors from Spain, from Portugal, from Italy that will be present there as well. One of the things that I notice that is still, strangely enough, lacking at this point in time is companies, and especially companies that come to the HealthTech Investor Summit for the first time, don't know investors yet, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So we need to do more things to make sure that people find each other. And one of the things that we're going to do, and you may not like that, but we're going to do it anyhow, is we're going to start the conference with a reverse pitch. We will ask the investors to present themselves.
Okay, no, I'm all for it.
With 2 objectives. First of all, to make clear to all the different companies, this is an investor investing in this stage and with this focus, but also to put the face on a name of the investment, so that afterwards it's much easier for the companies to find each other. The second thing that we're going to do with the same objective is we're going to color code the lanyards. Yeah. So the investors will get blue lanyards and the companies will get green lanyards. So that we are, when we
immediately
are
who's
in the receptions, that you immediately know, that's an investor. And we'll even go a step further. We will color code the maturity of investment. So late stage investors will get dark blue lanyards. Early stage investors will get pale blue, and somewhere in the middle. And the same with the companies, so that you walk around not only during the coffee breaks, not only during the pitches, not only during the partnering, but also during the conference dinner, that you can say, this is somebody I need to talk to. And our objective there is very, very simple. We want to maximize even more chances that people find each other. So there will be no excuse anymore to say, I didn't find the right investors. They just need to open their eyes, and they need to go and listen to the pitches.
I like the idea, and then I take the opportunity to make a request, which you are probably already maybe in the agenda. It was very good last year, these stand-up cocktail or stand-up dinner, because it was a very good way of meeting all the people you didn't have a chance to meet before. You know? And it's like a 3-4 hours dinner. You can basically go around. And I remember I had quite a number of companies say, "Oh, Laurent, I couldn't see you. Let's meet at the cocktail at the end of the day, because it's 4 hours. You can really meet the people. Maybe it's just 5 minutes, but then you follow on." And I think this one is very, very good. I remember you said there were some companies coming to you and saying, "Well, the investors don't accept my meeting, or they don't respond," and so on. I think, look, I hope companies, even those who got funding, keep coming back.
Yeah.
Because of course you raise a round today, maybe in 18 months or 20 months you raise the next round, and then it's a 5-7 years adventure till you get the exit. And for investors it's the same thing. You see a company, and depending on how the story goes, you may fall in love with the investment, and maybe while a year ago you had questions. So I think this one is also something that I hope. And look, I'm all for the proposal you made. I like it, actually.
Well, the last thing that we're going to do is, that last year we organized some pitch training.
Yeah.
We will expand that pitch training into a training, how do we get the maximum out of the HealthTech Investor Summit? And exactly refer to these kind of things. Make sure that you not only use the pitching session as an occasion to shine. You need to shine all the time, and you need to go after these investors all the time. I still see too many health tech companies that believe their technology is the greatest of the world, and that think investors will come to them. It's the other way around. They need to go after investors. And so we will also, during these pitching sessions, and we will do such a pitching session in Belgium again, but we've committed to do one in this particular place here in Paris for the French companies, and we will do one also in the Netherlands.
Nice.
And in that way, prepare to a maximum the companies that will be there. And then it's up to them then to deliver.
And I have maybe another idea. It's not yet a request, because we need to see if this is possible. It would be great actually to get a commissioner from the EU Commission to maybe come and, I don't know, attend a session or something, because as we're talking, they can be really helpful. Maybe EIC can help us get the right person in, because when they see what we are trying to do, we are not asking for a favor or whatever. When they see what we are trying to do, they may be able to give us a little bit of help on 1 or 2 of the actions we'd like them to take. And of course, they can only do that if they realize, maybe being in front of the people, the good that can come out of it.
We'll do our best. I cannot promise anything, but we will do our best. And it would be great if a commissioner could be there to, at the end of our brainstorming session, to listen to the 3 things that we are expecting from that person. So it could be a perfect roundup of the conference, and I think it's also a very good roundup of our discussion here. Thank you very much. It was great.
Yeah, thank you, Henk.
Again, and see you soon in Utrecht.
Very nice. I'll be there. We'll be there. Thank you.